Hello there, welcome to Across the Balkans. I'm Nafisa Latic. Great to have your company. US President Donald Trump returned to the White House and wasted no time in getting to work. His swift decisions are already making waves across the globe. As the leader of one of the world's most powerful countries, his actions will affect millions of lives, including those in the Balkans. While Trump insists his focus is America first, his policies will inevitably be felt far beyond US borders. In Kosovo, a country where the US has strong support, Trump's return has sparked strong reactions. How is it being perceived? Omer Saraci reports from Pristina.
In below freezing weather, members of the Friend of USA Association, members of Pristina's firefighting service and citizens held a symbolic ceremony on the day of US President Trump's inauguration in the square named after former President Bill Clinton.
Ngritja e flamurit në Prishtinë ka simbolik të jashtëzakonshme. E vetmi shpëtim është Amerika. E vetmi shpëtim është Amerika. E vetmi shpëtim është Amerika 3 herë peceku me vedije të plotë.
Po si qytetare e Kosovës, ndrimi presidentit në SBA do të thotë shumë, parasysh ndihmën që ka dhënë SBA për ne, për të ardhmen tonë, sepse jemi miq të Amerikës.
Për neve Amerika është gjithçka dhe fal Amerikës dhe presidentëve edhe të mëhershëm, ne ekzistojmë si kom dhe si shtet.
The United States has many friends in Kosovo, and one of them is undoubtedly Agim Recepi, the association chair. Trump's inauguration day holds special significance for Recepi and many of his compatriots, who are eager to learn more about how the president will shape foreign policy in the years ahead during his second term.
Unë menoj edhe jam i tharë një filozofie që ne do të bëjmë detyrat tona, si shtet edhe si komë dhe si institucione. Nëse ne kemi ditë ose arrim që t'ju paraprim veprimeve edhe të kthejmë objektivat e Shteteve të Bashkuara të Amerikës, karshi Kosovës e karshi interesave nacionale, sepse tradicionalisht Shtetet e Bashkuara kemi pas dhe kemi aleat.
He says America's role during the war made the survival of the Kosovar state possible, while even afterwards the support Kosovo received enabled the consolidation of the new state.
Sigur mos të ishin Shtetet e Bashkuara të Amerikës në krye me presidentin Trump, me siguri forca e sigurisë Kosovës nuk do të shndrohej në ushtritë të Kosovës. Politika amerikane vepron stazafat gjata. Politikën amerikane e krijojnë ekspertët mirë, po unë mendoj që do të ketë një lëvizje pak më ndryshe me këtë qeverisje të presidentit Trump.
Gallup has reported that Kosovo is one of the countries with the strongest support for the US compared to many other countries in the region. The data collected by Gallup indicate that 83% of the surveyed Kosovars expressed their support. The US has a special place in Kosovo's history, especially in its journey towards independence, particularly during and after the Kosovo War. However, this sentiment is not shared by everyone in Kosovo. Gallup data showed that before the White House race, only 10% of Serbs supported American leadership. However, with Donald Trump's return, support for US leadership is now rising.
Election of the US president has actually a deep meaning for the entire Western Balkan countries. It will be a new momentum, I would say, not only when it comes to US itself, but also when it comes to the rest of the world and us, of course. At least we are a bit selfish to not to forget ourselves in the Western Balkans and the issues, we are facing unresolved issues, I have to say.
For Milicevic, Trump's approach to dealing with issues is seen as very practical and efficient. After many years of strained relations, the Serbian government has found an interlocutor who could help re-establish a new path for engaging with the US administration in the future.
They are expecting basically to re-energize the stalled dialogue between Kosovo and Serbia, but they are awaiting also to see whether the new administration would have sufficient influence and the leverage over the presumably future government, which might again be a veteran dossier that could persuade the future Kosovo government that the position of the Kosovo Serb community must improve significantly.
While Kosovar society appreciates the US role in their independence, some are seeking a policy shift. President-elect Trump's inauguration is seen as a pivotal moment, sparking hopes for a brighter future despite political divides. There is optimism for renewed dialogue to resolve ongoing regional conflicts. Omer Saraci, Across the Balkans, Pristina.
In a series of executive orders, Donald Trump suspended all U.S. foreign assistance programs for 90 days to determine whether they are aligned with his policy goals. Well, this will also halt the money being received by the Balkan states. As only a few officials from the region were in Washington on Inauguration Day, many see it as a message that the Balkans won't be in focus, at least at first. Others, though, believe that the shift in the U.S. foreign policy might bring some upsets. Adam Amunu reports.
The Honorable Donald John Trump.
Balkan leaders often celebrate the close ties their countries have with the US. However, very few of them were seen at Monday's inauguration of US President Donald Trump in Washington, D.C. North Macedonia's Prime Minister Hristijan Mickoski was very much present and posted a photo of himself in the VIP box at the inaugural presidential parade on social media platform X. And Montenegrin Foreign Minister Ervin Ibrahimović was reportedly invited according to local media.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
Across the region, many officials were silent in the days leading up to the inauguration, and experts believe it's because they're uncertain about what a Trump second term would bring. But even though the vast majority of Balkan leaders were a no-show, some still took to social media to congratulate Trump. This is due to America's strong ties to powerhouse blocs like NATO and the EU, and its role in post-conflict mediation. There was much promise of economic and investment opportunities between countries like Serbia and Kosovo during Trump's first presidency. And as Across the Balkans has previously reported, Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner plans to build hotels and villas in Albania's Sazan Island and Vlora coastline, and a third luxury hotel on the site of the former army headquarters in Serbia's capital, Belgrade.
The golden age of America begins right now. From this day forward, our country will flourish and be respected again all over the world.
While Trump is expected to bolster greater trade with the region, his America's First rhetoric will leave many wondering what this term of presidency will mean for this corner of Europe. Adam Amunu, Across the Balkans.
Let's bring in now Valerie Perry from Sarajevo. She's an independent consultant and senior associate at the Democratization Policy Council. Perry has worked in the Balkans since the late 1990s for several organizations, including the U.S. Agency for International Development. Great to have you with us on Across the Balkans. Let me start with, how can this shift in the U.S. foreign policy impact the Balkans, and what can we expect from Trump's second term in office when it comes to this part of the world? I know it might be a bit early to ask this as he was just sworn in, but we might have some hints, don't we?
We do, definitely, especially since we can learn a lot from what we saw in the first administration. And we can see how they've been putting in place a number of the policy ideas and general tone that they plan to bring to them in terms of their engagement with foreign policy. I think the key word is going to be transactionalism, values-free transactionalism. The period of time that we saw emerging from the 90s and really outlining the flavor of the post-Cold War world for some time, of thinking about democratic values, human rights, as well as security going hand in hand, is really going to be replaced by much more of a business, self-interested transactionalism and a deal-making among elites, which is going to sound very familiar to a lot of people in the Western Balkans who have felt that their political elites and business elites have often been one and the same. But we're now going to really see this supersized, and it's going to have a big impact on politics and economic issues globally in the United States as well as in the region.
We covered a lot here, Trump and his family's deals with the Balkans, most notably with Serbia and Albania. How much role will this play moving forward? As you already mentioned, this transactionalism that we've seen in the first term. So how much can this be advantage for Serbia and Albania, for example?
Well, it depends on what you mean by advantage and for whom the advantage might be. In terms of who want to curry favor with Donald Trump or his family members, it's very easy to see how to reach them and how to get on their radar screen. Months before the election even happened in November, we saw that his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, had started making deals with other elites in Albania and Serbia, as you've noted. And I think that we can expect that to continue. And these deals very often tend to be elite to elite. They tend to not be transparent. They tend to not be consultative. And they're very focused on enriching the individuals who are involved and not really going through a process that would ensure that the benefits of such progress might end up having a broader social value. And of course, this is something that's going to be appealing to leaders, business people, oligarchs who don't want to deal with different measures such as transparency, anti-corruption, rights-based engagement, etc. And so it really is going to be much more of a mainlining of illiberal and kleptocratic practices that, again, is going to ring familiar to people in the region, but could set back some of the efforts to support democratic reforms that we've already seen have been challenging.
We mentioned Trump's son-in-law Kushner deals with Serbia, but we've seen in Kosovo, many people are optimistic about having Trump again in the White House. But should they be worried, as you know, Kosovo and Serbia were on the agenda of the Trump's previous time in the office, and many in the current Kosovar government that is heading towards the elections were unhappy the way Trump dealt with that. And you know, we know that Kosovo and Serbia tensions are one of the main issues for the stability of the region.
Sure. No, I think that capitals around the world need to try to project a notion of optimism, of opportunity, of a positive vibe, simply to try to figure out how they're going to navigate some of these shifts that we're going to see. So I'm not surprised that there are positive notes coming from Kosovo, for example. However, I think that everyone would do well to look at what we've seen in the previous administration and to look at some of the trend lines that we see in general. You might recall that it was in the first administration that we started to see more normalized discussion of a land swap. And any discussion about changing borders should be of concern to people in the region, but actually globally as well. I was quite worried to see that in the inauguration, his inaugural remarks, he was speaking specifically about Panama in a way that, again, showed him thinking about territorial borders and territorial engagement being up for grabs. And this is something that business leaders might want to see, but it's also something that the government in China is listening to as they think about how they can navigate in this world. And as they look at their relationship with Taiwan, for example, it's something that Vladimir Putin is listening to as he looks forward to how there's going to be engagement on Ukraine. And so I think that any discussion about changing borders is dangerous. And that's exactly why, for a period of time, there was the understanding that borders are inviolable and that protecting minority rights among and within borders is the preferred way of navigating in the modern world.
Looking at his cabinet, you mentioned redrawing the borders during his first term. We did hear from some of the members of his cabinet. I think it was Bolton who said that in Ukraine, even redrawing borders might be an option for administration then. But some of these people are not part of his cabinet anymore, including Bolton. So what can we expect from Marco Rubio, who has been just sworn in as Secretary of State? Any changes when it comes to the approach they have, not just towards the Balkans, but most notably towards the Ukraine war?
Sure. Marco Rubio can really be considered to be the adult in the room when we look at some of the less experienced people who have been proposed to be a part of the cabinet. However, he also needs to push forward the agenda that he's been given. And we've already seen that one of the executive orders, for example, is related to freezing foreign aid that's already often in the pipeline through different engagement by USAID, the United States' main development agency overseas. And so we're seeing that this 90-day freeze is being put into place purportedly so that they can review what's going on and make sure that it's in line with the new Trump America First agenda. And so this implementation is going to tell us a lot about what we can expect in terms of some of the more practical programmatic engagement. I suspect that what we'll see is that any projects that are related to issues that are seen as seen as bad by the administration could include engagement to support citizens who want to protect the environment, efforts to protect the environment in places around the world in general, efforts to promote women's empowerment and women's participation in public life, and certainly anything related to the LGBT community, because there's been a message sent loud and clear that this is not something that Trump's administration wants to support at home, and they certainly won't want to support such rights abroad. So those are just a sample of what I think we can expect to see from the cabinet.
You mentioned the 90 days freeze on the foreign aid, but what about the sanctions? We know that the previous administration imposed sanctions just a couple of days before the inauguration on Serbia's oil and gas company NIS, that is majority owned by Russia's Gazprom. Can we expect these sanctions to be looked at or to be eased with the new administration?
I think that everything is going to be on the table. It was loud and clear in his words and in the initial executive orders that he wants to reverse as much as possible that the Biden administration had done, either during its 4 years or in the days and weeks before the transfer of the presidency. And so we should not expect that anything is going to remain in place unless the Trump administration feels that it's going to fit their more transactional posture. And in this, I think that we can see that the extent to which leaders in the region are able to try to curry favor with the administration and the staff within is going to be key. One lesson that was learned in the first administration is that playing up to the ego of President Trump and people in his administration is key. And also trying to present business opportunity or real estate deals is key. And that's what's so troubling when we look at territorial issues, whether with Serbia and Kosovo, Ukraine, or elsewhere. If we have a president who views geopolitics as real estate, then there's really no telling how much damage could be done to the values-based geopolitical environment that we've seen for some time. And this could create a lot of uncertainty. And the uncertainty will be difficult politically, and it will also have an economic impact in the region and on Wall Street. So there's just a lot of open questions right now.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much for joining us on Across the Balkans. I really appreciate your insights. Many things that we talked about really remains to be seen, but I think we got the hint that all this might be there might be a lot of transactional deals here, knowing the way Trump approaches to politics. Thank you so much, Valerie, again, for sharing this insight for us.
Thank you so much, and I think we can all look forward to seeing what happens and hope for the best while expecting a lot of change.
Yes, thank you so much.